Have you ever been watching a movie and just wished you could grab the controls, tell the main character what to do? Well, in video games, you're not just watching the story unfold, you're actually driving it. So let's dive into how these incredible, interactive worlds are becoming one of the most powerful frontiers for storytelling. This quote right here, it gets to the absolute heart of what makes games so special. It's all about this feeling called agency. See, a movie can make you feel sad for a character, but a game can make you feel real, genuine guilt for a choice that you made. A book can fill you with joy, but a game can give you this deep, personal pride for a challenge you overcame. And that feeling of responsibility, of being in the driver's seat, that's what we're exploring today. And this power, this sense of agency, it's really the engine behind what makes video games such a revolutionary new space for creativity and for human connection. And when I say revolutionary, I also mean massive. Just look at this number. In 2020 alone, the video game industry pulled in $180 billion. To put that in perspective, that's more than the entire music and sports industries combined. So yeah, this isn't some niche hobby anymore. It's a huge cultural and economic force. So how do we actually step into one of these incredible worlds? Well, it all starts with our digital self, our representative in this new reality, our avatar. You know, the word itself is actually pretty cool. It comes from Sanskrit, and it originally meant the descent of a god into an earthly body. And in a weird way, that's kind of what we do when we play, right? We're projecting our consciousness, our will, into a digital form. And so who do we choose to be in these worlds? Well, a lot of the time, we create idealized versions of ourselves. And this isn't just cosmetic, making our character look a certain way. It can also be psychological. We get to decide, are we going to be the hero, the villain? Are we cautious or are we reckless? Our avatar becomes this kind of canvas, a place to explore who we are, or maybe who we'd like to be. Which brings me to a question for you. Think about it. If you were logging in right now, would you create a digital twin, someone who looks and acts just like you? Or would you create someone or maybe something entirely new? Okay, so we've got our avatar. Now let's talk about how the choices we make go way beyond just defining our character. They can fundamentally reshape the entire story. Think about traditional stories, like in a book or a movie. You're basically on a train track. There's one path with a set beginning, middle, and end. But a lot of games, they offer what's called a nonlinear plot. It's more like a giant sprawling tree with tons of different branches. The actions you take actually determine which path the story follows, making your journey totally unique. But what's really fascinating is that even with all that freedom, game developers still lean on these timeless storytelling principles. The classic 3-act structure, the setup, the confrontation, and the resolution, that often provides the backbone for even the most wide-open adventures. It's a way to make sure the story still feels satisfying, no matter which branch you take. And really, it all comes back to this. In other media, you are a passive observer. But in a game, you have control. You can find key story details or miss them completely. And that brings us right back to that core idea of agency. You don't just feel emotions for a character, you feel responsible for your actions. So far, we've really been focused on our own personal journey inside the game. But things get a lot more complicated when our virtual world suddenly collides with someone else's. And this is where everything changes. Because in these huge, shared online spaces, you're not just interacting with computer code anymore. You're interacting with other people, each with their own avatar, their own goals, and their own sense of agency. And unfortunately, not all of these interactions are good ones. So to really understand the darker side of this, we need to get two key terms straight. Cybervictimization is a really broad term for basically any negative experience you have online. But cyberbullying is more specific. It's intentional, it's repeated, and it's designed to harass and cause distress. Because what happens in the game doesn't always stay in the game. These virtual conflicts can have a very real and very personal impact on our actual lives. Research actually shows that just the perceived gender of your avatar can totally change your experience. For example, one study found that when female avatars were more sexualized, it was linked to higher rates of cyberbullying. And on top of that, female and gay players report way more harassment, everything from unwanted comments to direct threats and even stalking. So just how widespread is this?
Well, in one major study of online gamers, 52% of them reported being cyber victimized in just the last few months. That's more than half of all players experiencing some kind of harm.
But that's not even the whole picture. In that very same study, 35% of players admitted to actually doing the cyberbullying themselves. This suggests that the line between who is a victim and who is an aggressor can get really, really blurry.
And this number really drives that point home. 21% of players said they were both a perpetrator and a victim. It points to this really tangled, complex cycle where people who get hurt sometimes go on to hurt others. We started this whole journey celebrating the incredible power of agency, that pride and responsibility we feel from our actions in a game. So that brings us to one final and I think vital question. If we know our virtual actions create very real emotions, what is our responsibility to each other in these amazing digital worlds that we all build and share together?